Hello, my name is Katerina Lanfranco and welcome. This is an instructional video on stretching canvas, and we're right now in the painting studio at Hunter College in the art department, and I will be showing you how to stretch a canvas. I teach painting, and this is really a best practices video for beginning painting. Let's start with the tools that you're going to be using and that you'll need for stretching a canvas. So you will need to have a ruler. You need a pair of nice sharp scissors and stretcher bars. So these are smaller stretcher bars. If you're going to be using smaller stretcher bars, you might find yourself with something like this with mitered edges that get assembled into corners. You have 4 pieces, and this is actually a stretcher bar. And we refer to it as well as a stretcher bar, but this is actually a strainer bar. So the difference is that the corners are glued and often have nails and screws in them, so you can't adjust the support like you can with a stretcher bar over time. With your stretcher bar, you're going to want to make sure that when you stretch it that the canvas lays on the beveled side, because the back of the stretcher is flat and will be flush to your canvas. So this side goes against the wall, and this side with the beveled edge is underneath the canvas. So basically the canvas is supported by the outer edge of the stretcher bar. So the next thing you'll need is a pair of canvas pliers. These are really nice heavy-duty ones. You'll notice that it has teeth inside, used to grip the canvas with an even spread. You get a lot more leverage than just using your hands, especially on the larger surfaces. Next, we're going to be using some canvas, and this canvas is 12 duck cotton canvas. This is a really nice high-grade canvas. You can see it's not porous at all. And then you'll also need a staple gun. This is a manageable size but heavy-duty staple gun, and correlating staples that go in there. On one canvas you might use a whole sort of cartridge full of staples, and they just go right in the back there. They go back there and then closed up, and then you're ready to staple. So these are all the basic tools that you'll need to stretch a great canvas. Before we cut our canvas, we want to lay down something protective between the canvas and the surface you're working on. So here I have some butcher paper, which will keep the canvas from getting marred with dirt or remnant paint that's around the studio. So the next thing to do is you just want to double check the dimension of your stretcher bar. The stretcher bar is 34 by 40. And something to consider is that there is a thickness to the stretcher bar, and the canvas is going to wrap around that. So we have 2 inches and an additional almost 2 inches on the back. So we're going to give ourselves enough canvas to stretch around an additional 3 inches on either side. So that's an additional 6 inches in each dimension. So our 34 by 40 inch stretcher bar turns into a 40 by 46 piece of canvas. Now when you get your canvas, if you're starting from a roll, you just want to measure your canvas before you start. So this is 48 plus 12, 60 inches, and we need a piece that is 40 by 46. Because the width of this canvas is longer than our longest dimension, we're going to keep the longest dimension on the width and then make the shortest dimension into the roll. So that would be our 40 inches. And you want to make sure when you're working with a roll, things are already aligned. But if you have just a loose piece of canvas, you want to just make sure that you're aligning your cutting or your line that you're going to cut along with the weave of the canvas. So here, make a mark at 40, and then another mark at 46. And this will help you get a straight line by measuring throughout. You can also use a T-square ruler, and that can help to get a straight line. that's going to be your canvas piece. We'll cut the piece off of the roll first. And when you cut, you want to try to go along the weave of the canvas as much as you can, so you have as little fraying as possible. So there you go. And save this piece for some other use. But this way you waste the least amount of canvas and you're able to make the most out of this roll. So you want to make sure that you have your beveled side turned down when you're ready to start stapling your canvas. So the first thing to do after that is to center your canvas. Ideally, you should have about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch showing of wood along the top here. And remember that canvas does stretch as you're stretching it around the stretcher bar. So your first staples, because you don't have any resistance, you don't want to pull too hard on the first staple. So I'll just pull it up, and I have about somewhere between 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch of wood showing. And then I'm going to just 1/2 inch down, put my first staple, take my canvas pliers, and you don't want to over pull on the first side because that side has not been stapled yet. So just be conservative. There we go. And now you can pull harder. Okay, and you start back to where you were. And since this is a larger canvas, I'm just going to go ahead and do a staple on either side of that first staple, and then I'll go around. And the spacing between the two staples is about 1.5 inches. Too many, and you'll just have too many staples on your canvas, and too few, you'll have some puckering. The reason why we're going from the center of the planes out is because we're pulling all of the slack canvas into the corners. So that way, there's no puckering on the surface. And now that I have 3 staples on either side, I'm going to start again on my first side. And the process repeats. And you want to make sure that you don't put the staple too close to the edge of the canvas, because sometimes the fray will run down and the staple will get loose. Another reason to have a little bit of wood showing here and not having an overflap of canvas is that you don't want to have canvas interfering when you hang your painting, because too much canvas can be a safety issue, and it also doesn't look very professional to have a huge extra flap. So proper measuring and cutting will help you keep it really nice and trim, so that you have enough canvas to go around the back, but not so much that it interferes with hanging. Okay, so as you're going around and you're deciding on what side you're going to have the fold on, the side that will not have the fold, you can basically staple to the edges. I'll leave a little bit of canvas open here so that I can have some space to do some folding. In the meantime, I'm going to just finish off the sides here. All right, so here we have another corner to fold. This is the side of the picture plane, the bottom, so the fold is going to be underneath where there's a slack in material. First thing you do is have a nice taut edge here, and then you want to align this fold with the side of the canvas. You also want to notice how this canvas here overlaps nicely. So once you've gotten that, you can take your pliers and pull it nice and taut. Go ahead and stick a staple in there, and then do the rest of the corner. You need a little bit of slack in order to fit that triangle of a fold underneath. And I like to just put one in here for extra support in the corners. Once you've stretched your canvas, the last thing to do is do a little drum test. And you can see that there's a nice taut surface. There's no puckering. The edges are really smooth. The folds are on the same side. So there's a fold here. There's a fold here underneath. But on this side, it's just a nice seam. Same thing over here. And the back of your stretcher bar is going to be nice and clean. No strings of canvas. No overlapping canvas. A little bit of wood showing, hangs really easily, and it stays the way it should stay. All right, so here we have a small canvas that is stretched and primed, and I just wanted to show you quickly when you're taking off the canvas, you just have to get a few staples out, and then it becomes easier to take out. And then if you have trouble with the staples, what you can do is use a flathead screwdriver, and just that will help remove some of these staples. So for advanced painting, there's a lot of different surfaces you can stretch over stretcher bars, and I've brought in some really nice fine Belgian linen. And this linen has a very tight weave and fine fibers. And it's very nice because it has a very smooth surface, so you can work with it primed with gesso or matte medium. So material like this linen, you're going to want to cut because of how the fibers interact. If you try to tear, if I were to make a little cut here and try to tear, it doesn't tear at all. In fact, it morphs the surface a little bit. It distorts the surface by pushing the fibers. When you're more advanced with the canvas, besides drawing a line or cutting with your scissors along the weave, you can make a notch at the correct spot and then tear. And you can see how much easier that is to tear than the linen. So this is just a basics, kind of best practices for stretching canvas for your painting, which will help you when you decide to venture out into linen or burlap or paper or a variety of materials that you can stretch around your stretcher bars.